So thank you very much. So for the guy that actually requested for this paper, okay. So I'll be doing this video, okay, section by section. I'll be doing the kind of video recording, okay, or screen recording. Sorry. So the paper you mentioned that we should explain. So the title is Natural Language Processing Based Restoration of Damaged Student Essay Archives for Educational Preservation and Fair Reassessment. So that's the title. The paper was published in 2025 in by MDPI Electronics precisely. So I think the first thing I need to talk to you about is that because today I'm just going to do a kind of brief explanation of what the problem is all about, what actually prompted the research. Okay, so now we realize that you know reliance on physical examination scripts in many institutions, in many colleges, universities, polytechnic, and so on, makes paper-based student essay vulnerable to damage, which is commonly caused by things like water exposure, fire and heat, poor storage conditions and wear and tear, aging and ink fading, natural disasters such as flood, storms, and things of that nature, improper scanning or copying, institutional accidents, and so on and so forth. Okay, so and of course you know that this issue often results in missing text, illegible sections, partially destroyed scripts, thus making fair grading, reassessment, and long-term academic preservation difficult without intelligent restoration techniques. So it will become very difficult. Do you understand? Especially when a student calls for reassessment or there's need for reassessment, as the case might be. So it's very difficult. Okay, without uh, intelligent restoration techniques. Okay, so that's what actually prompted this research. So it's important I mention that because the first thing to understand is the problem we're actually solving, which is the title, basically, which is the title of the research, and that's precisely what actually led to carry out this particular research in 2025. So in today's video, having explained the problem, having explained the motivation behind the research, what informed the research. So I'll be telling you things, okay, some of the things that we actually did in the paper. So you can go and look at the paper. The title is NLP-Based Restoration of Damaged Student Essay Archives for Educational Preservation and Fair Reassessment. So in the paper, this is the outline. This is the brief explanation about the entire embodiment of the paper. So the outline. So look at the introduction apart from the abstract and the title. So the paper is divided into these sections. Okay, introduction, literature review, aim and objectives, dataset description and processing, methodology, result and discussion, and the last section of course is conclusion and future work. So under the introduction, we briefly explain physical examination scripts, reliance of the institutional reliance on the physical examination scripts. Okay, and so we'll look at causes of archival degradation, educational consequences, importance of essay in an institution. Okay, then motivation for automated restoration, not regeneration or correction. It's important that we lay emphasis on that. So all these things are summarized within the introduction section. Then next in the introduction section is our literature review, where we talked about document restoration approaches, okay, which include image-based restoration and NLP-based text correction and generation. Then we also looked at educational natural language processing and fairness. And then the last part of in this literature review is the identification of the research gap. So then following that, following the literature review, so we also spoke about aim and objectives. The aim is to develop an NLP-based framework, as I said earlier, which is the topic itself, and of course these are the specific objectives. Okay, so the first objective is to construct a peer data set of damage and original essay, which we did. Formulate essay restoration as a span infinite task. Then fine-tuning a TVAR. This is the model that we actually use, encoder decoder model for reconstruction. Then we compare the performance with baseline NLP models. Then we evaluate restoration quality using automated metrics, human expert judgment, and of course we incorporated confidence estimation for ethical deployments. Then next to that is the dataset description and the pre-processing. So where we talked about the source of the dataset, the size, the digitization processes, operations, synthetic degradation, the format of the dataset, and all the pre-processing operation carried out on the dataset, such as maybe lower casing, punctuation normalization, and of course token validation. Then after that, under the methodology, we talked about the problem formulation, model architecture, spam masking strategy, preservation of student voice, training and optimization, and then confidence estimation. Then after the methodology, we move on to result and discussion. So talking about training dynamics, quantitative evaluation, qualitative analysis, error type analysis, human evaluation. Then we carried out a kind of ablation analysis. Okay, then we discuss all the results that we actually got. Then the last section, of course, is the conclusion and future work. So under the conclusion, we talk about summary of findings, the summary of the entire research. So then we summarize the findings, and then we also spoke about we talked about future work, which actually talks about future directions. So those are the main section of the paper. So yeah, so to paraphrase, so the paper is sectionized into 7 different major sections. Okay, talking about the introduction, literature review, aim and objective, data set description and pre-processing, methodology, resource and discussion, and then the last part is conclusion and future work. So thank you. So in the next video we'll move on to the introduction aspect of the paper. Thank you.